UUCD Forum. I know we'll have more friends joining us shortly here, and hello to all of our online attendees. We are lucky today because we are jumping into the month of March, and we devote this month to Chum's Food Drive, which is part of the Minnesota Food Share annual campaign. Today we're going to take a brief look at how UUCD came to be active members of Chum and focus on the great and growing need for food and dollars for food in our region. This is going to be presented today by Chum Director of Operations, Amber Sadowski, and UUCD member, Marty Sozansky, who serves as UUCD's representative on Chum's Board of Directors. So please join me in giving a hearty, warm welcome this morning to both Marty and Amber. Thank you so much for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, thank you. I'm Marty Sozansky, and this is Amber Sadowski. We have a ski team here.
Yeah.
So, happy about that. Amber is the operations director at Chum, who was here 1 year ago today in about the first week of her job in order to talk to us. So I'm really glad she's back. We planned a sort of a three-part presentation to you. The first is I wanted to clear up a couple of pieces of information I didn't have a year ago, back in July, when we had a whole service devoted to Chum. And I just think that because of this special year, talking about some things that have happened over the years is really interesting, sort of a fun facts thing. And then secondly, we're definitely going to focus on the food drive. And finally, I asked Amber to just share some things that she's working on. Amber's the first director of operations at Chum, and she's got 1 million projects going and already has accomplished a lot of things. So the logo this year that's on the slide now is special for this year only because we are in the 50th year of Chum in Duluth area, and we're trying to commemorate in every way that we can the services that Chum has provided over the years. The words that are under the logo, food, shelter, dignity, and hope, are certainly the rallying point for everything that Chum does. The next slide shows you the logo for the Minnesota Food Share. The Minnesota Council of Churches organizes and does a lot to promote the month-long food drive in Minnesota. And they provide the materials like you see here for posters and a lot of information. But all of the money that is raised for Chum here in Duluth goes directly to Chum. So that's the idea of behind the Minnesota Food Share being part of our logo. Yes, so here's the fun facts. June 4th, 1973, 10 congregations that were doing work, a lot of it separately, in the Central Hillside area of Duluth, decided that they would be stronger and be able to do more if they were together. And so they signed a pact on June 4th, 1973. You see listed on the slide those 10 churches. The ones that are asterisk are ones that have merged with other congregations, whether or not the buildings are still in place, but there is certainly a great evolution in membership and in physical buildings that the congregations have been a part of. The first executive director was John Hawley, who was employed at the time by Gloria Day as a outreach person into the community. Over the next 10 years, other congregations wanted to join Chum because they saw the efforts that were going on. And by 1994, there were many, or several, I will say, Chum churches outside of the Central Hillside area. So Central Hillside United Ministry no longer seemed appropriate, and so the name was legally changed to Churches United in Ministry. Now, with the membership in 98 of this congregation and the subsequent membership of Temple Israel, we sort of worried about the word churches, and so that was handled through branding. Now Chum, which we write in capital C, lowercase HUM, is the name of the organization, although being a 501c3 organization, the legal name with the state has not been changed, but we're just Chum. We're just Chum. And this is a, leave that on for a second.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. This is a history of Chum from 1973 to 1999. And it reveals towards the end that in 1996, the first Unitarian and Universalist Church opened discussions with then Executive Director Chris Correa on joining Chum. And this congregation formally applied in 1997. There was discussion. New congregational members of Chum are voted in, are approved and welcomed at the annual meeting, which occurs in the first quarter of every year. Listen to this report from this history of what happened, after Chum, after UUCD applied. Applications for membership must be formally approved by the delegate assembly at the annual meeting. In January 1997, a group of clergy representing the variety of denominations within Chum met with Jim Soderberg, he was the executive director, to prepare a recommendation to the delegate assembly. This group discussed how to integrate members of other faith communities into Chum in a way that respected both Chum's origin and commitment to the gospel and the integrity of other religious beliefs. What impact, if any, would membership by communities of different faiths have on Chum? The consensus was an affirmation of Chum's origins in the gospel, a statement that new members must understand and accept that origin, and a recommendation that the delegate assembly accept the Unitarian application for membership. And we were voted in at the annual meeting in 1998. So that was what information that I didn't have last July when we had a whole service devoted to this. So I wanted to explain that. I have been blown away by the way in which the member congregations have always, since I've been on the board for 3 years, always used the word congregation instead of church, and referred to us as an interfaith organization. I didn't know, really naive, that the word ecumenical is limited to Christian faiths. So it's interfaith, and we've left ecumenical behind. One more slide on these early programs. I was also blown away by just how much the programs at Chum have changed in response to things going on in the community, in response to needs that change, and in response to other agencies becoming more equipped to take on response to these needs. The first program that Chum undertook in 1973 was to provide summer programming for elementary school children. And over the years, many other resources came to the community, the Y, in order to do that. Really important program, and one that drove the movement was that the Central Hillside area had been, the area churches had been terrific at putting together programs called Friends, and one called Telecare that was aimed at keeping in contact by phone or visits to people who did not have access in that part of the city, or who were challenged by poverty, by illness, and by aging. Not only to reach out and just have simple human contact regularly, but also to put people in touch with services that they needed. Chum Church was an early program. 1974, Chum Church came about and has been active, but it too, as programs have been assimilated into other mainstream congregations, Chum Church is not actively meeting at this time. Okay, that's enough. Let's talk food. In 1981, the Chum Food Shelf opened. This was an effort among three groups. First of all, the Duluth Food and Nutrition Council, and I've spent a couple of hours in the archive and can't find very much, so if anyone knows a lot about the Duluth Food and Nutrition Council, please let me know. But also, Bethel Baptist Church at the time was looking for and being asked to embrace something in the community that they could really do, that was a need throughout the community. And those two groups went to Chum and decided that together they could put together a food shelf for Duluth. There wasn't any, or maybe there were a couple of places on a limited basis that served that need. They had a city-wide, Duluth-wide food drive for a month or two in early 1981. They filled Bethel Baptist Church with food, and the history reports that there was so much stuff that it took them 3 weeks just to sort it. But in early April 1981, Chum opened the food shelf, and the rest is history. The West Food location opened less than a year later at Our Savior's Lutheran Church, 48th and Grand, and it is still open today. So it's a story of longevity, I think, if nothing else. The Chum Food Shelf is open from 10 a.m. to noon on Wednesday and Friday at the Chum Food Shelf location, 120 North 2nd Avenue. That's directly across the street from the Chum shelter and close to where the Chum offices are. On Mondays, 4831 Grand Avenue, that's the location of Our Savior's Lutheran Church, and that's when they distribute food from that location. Can you advance it? The, okay, I'm getting to my other sheet here, just a second.
This is a good history lesson.
We've been distributing food, and of course, we know about our efforts here to bring food, emphasis on peanut butter, but certainly not limited to that. A highlight, not necessarily a positive one, but things changed a lot during COVID throughout Chum, particularly at the shelter and particularly at the food shelf. There was a lot of planning that went into what should we do, how should we respond with when we have COVID throughout the shelter. There was opportunity to house people, hospitalize them, or keep them isolated at the Radisson Hotel. And we even got an award, were recognized by the state for the level of response to the COVID pandemic. At the food shelf, what changed enormously was that there could be no shopping. We acquired probably 500 cardboard boxes, like the kind I think years ago they gave them away at Cub Foods or something. But anyway, the boxes of food are packed and distributed, then already packed, and those who come to the food shelf can select what they need in addition to that, like dairy products. But all the packing is done by volunteers, and it's all done ahead of distribution. Since COVID is over, for all intents and purposes, we hope that program has remained. So food continues to be distributed from the food shelves in already packed, prepared boxes. Reasons for that are mostly because there isn't room anymore with the growth of the number of patrons of the food shelf. There isn't room to shelve food and shop as you would at the grocery store or the co-op. And so it's mostly a case of volume. And this has been the case for quite a while. There's a group of committed volunteers who come in early Monday morning and start putting boxes together. In fact, many of those actual jobs are done by volunteers. I'm privileged to be on what's called the Distributive Services Committee, and so I get to meet with the director of the food shelf, Scott Van Deel, almost every week or every other week. And there are a million stories, little stories of response to situations, and big stories of nothing is normal anymore. How should we get this done? For example, last year, this is a little story. The food starts to be distributed at the West Duluth location at 10 o'clock from our Savior's Lutheran Church. And people start showing up at 8:30, 9 o'clock. And last year, not this year, but last year, that, when it was so cold and so hard to get around, that was problematic. And yet, opening up the church so people could wait inside required a lot of meetings. Who's going to unlock it? What can we provide? If you come to the food shelf an hour before it opens at the church. And then we got a report one night in a board meeting, the church will be open before the truck gets there, and this is how we have managed to pull that off. And I call those little stories of constant improvement and trying to meet the needs of a changing culture. During COVID, Chum introduced Chum to Go. There are now 46 clients who have their boxed food delivered by volunteers who drive around to homes, other locations in order to deliver food. That's all done by volunteers. Also, I think less than 4 years that Chum has purchased CSA shares to distribute fresh produce on Friday in order to meet needs for food and for good food. The goal this year, our job this next month is $100,000 that Chum would like to collect, like to have during the food drive in order to purchase food, and the further goal is 50,000 pounds of food. So Scott tells us that half of the $100,000 will be used to purchase 80 shares, CSA shares. So there's obviously a point at which we are supporting local growers as much as anything. So I'm going to put quite a bit of information over by the Chum box. This is a letter from Scott Van Deel about the food drive during the month of March, and also a 2-pager that you can march through. Oh, it starts, March is almost here. What to bring, what we can't take at the food shelf, just other tidbits. The time, this is in all caps, the time to donate is now, but let's get to the details on food donation. The food shelf can purchase $3 worth of food for every $1 we donate. So that's why there is an emphasis both on donations and on dollars for food this month. Enough of me. I asked Amber to talk about other things going on at Chum, just to help us see just how many things are happening. This is a slide that John Cole, the executive director, uses when he talks to often to new groups about new programs. And I see that the Safe Bay program, where people who live in their cars can spend the night, isn't even listed there. That's how important that was last summer. Amber, talk to us.
Well, it's really nice to be here today, especially it's been a year since I've been here. I really appreciate that you put on these sessions, and it's just nice to be back here again. Speaking of Safe Bay, I don't know if we won an award for it, but there was definitely an article in the Star Tribune after the season last fall, after it ended, just kind of giving props to what we're doing with Safe Bay. It was pretty unique, and there's other communities in our state that are kind of looking at Chum and what we're doing with stepping on up specifically around Safe Bay to see what they can do in their communities. I think Rochester was one of those communities, but we had at Safe Bay families and individuals that we had never seen before. They hadn't accessed any of the other programs at Chum. I think it's safe to say too that the Damiano Center hadn't seen some of these individuals. So that just kind of led us to believe that there are a group of people out there working poor, living in their cars, going to work every day that needed that resource. And so to Marty's point of just kind of looking at the needs and trying to be creative to address those needs. And so as soon as the warming center ends, then Safe Bay will open up at the Damiano Center. So that's a partnership with the Damiano Center, providing the space in their parking lot for people to park their cars safely. The Damiano Center has showers, and then Chum with Stepping On Up and Joel Kilgore, and a lot of volunteers too, are needed to get that program going, but together people have a safe place to be during the warmer months at least. Let's see, another thing I wanted to say, just piggybacking off of what you were saying about the food shelf, with the Chum to Go boxes, that's been such a successful, needed program, and it's expanding, it seems like every month. Scott is really, and his staff are really amazing at being adaptive to the needs. So we have, you'll see on the screen here, St. Francis Apartments. St. Francis Apartments actually kind of came out of COVID too. Chum needed a place for individuals who had COVID to be secluded, to isolate, and St. Francis Apartments used to be the Duluth Downtown Hotel, and so people were staying there to isolate, and then eventually Chum was able to purchase that building. It's now a partnership with St. Luke's Hospital, so they own it, and we provide the staffing for that. And so that's one thing that we've done over the last year, is really build capacity there. Scott Van Dale packs special boxes for the folks living at St. Francis who would like a Chum to Go box. They don't have a full kitchen there, and so they have a mini fridge, like a college dorm fridge, they have a microwave, and they have a crock pot. But because of fire codes, they can't have a stove, they can't have a hot plate, things like that. And so Scott packs special boxes for them. You know, you're not going to get a whole roast. Maybe you'll get smaller items, canned goods, and things like that. Also at St. Francis, so we've spent the last year staffing up over there, building capacity. We hired a security team and had security there, and now we have our own staff. So we wrote a job description for that. We trained them, they're called safety aides. And so they're there kind of walking the grounds each night, making sure that things are safe. And it's really become a really special community. I've seen it really kind of quiet down there. A lot of the residents, so St. Francis is 55 plus. And so a lot of the residents have pets. One woman has a cat, there's a few different dogs, there's a large golden doodle and a little pug, and I really like popping over to St. Francis. And that's an opportunity too to volunteer. We're still looking for people to, maybe people who want to build relationships with the people that live there, come bring cookies and play cards for a couple hours a week, things like that. So just feel free to shoot me an email if you're interested in that. I want to be mindful of time, and there's so much to talk about. A few things. So for the strategic plan over this last year, we're really trying to help grow for greater service, and there is just a lot of need. Part of that was staffing up to support our guests. So I talked a little bit about how we did that at St. Francis. Hiring is really hard. That is a challenge that not only Chum, but a lot of organizations are having. Businesses, I think in the business sector and the nonprofit sector, and we hear about it in our hospitals too. So Chum is no different. That's been a little bit difficult in some regards. A couple positions that we're hiring for right now are a volunteer and event coordinator. We're doing interviews for that. I think in the past Chum had one a few, maybe 5 years ago. I obviously wasn't there, but we really need one because we, as Marty talked about, we depend on our volunteers for so much, you know, at our food shelf, Safe Bay, warming center, and we need someone to be that point person. We're also interviewing right now for another financial, like a financial associate to help our finance director. Chum has the budget has just increased exponentially over the last 5 years, and it really is. I'm shocked at what our finance director does with the budget that we have. So, and the staff, if you think about that, going from about maybe 30 or 40 staff now close to 80 staff that Chum has on payroll. So that's a lot of benefits, enrollments, and things like that. So those are, we're also going to be maybe hiring someone to do some data entry with our development team. So those are some expansions that we've done there. And as part of our strategic plan too, just helping staff grow professionally, helping staff learn about ways they can grow within the organization, improving staff retention. So those are some of the things that I've been trying to help with, including HR. We've been improving our internal organizational systems, like our filing, communication, procedures. Part of supporting staff, we sent out our first staff satisfaction survey this year, and we're very strategic about it. From that survey, developed 4 goals for the upcoming year. A couple of those goals are, just in continuing to improve communication. It's interesting with 80 employees working different shifts for, so many different programs that you see here, from the Warming Center, Chaplaincy, Steve O'Neill Apartments, Chum Shelter, Stepping On Up, the Street Outreach. And so some of our staff have email and Outlook, and some of our staff don't need that. We use this other tool called Slack. And from this survey, we learned that a lot of our staff prefer to communicate on Slack. So now we've been able to kind of change some of our communication strategies to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our staff. We're also taking a look at work-life balance and just how we, if you think about all these programs and all the different sites, getting supplies out to our staff. So kind of improving those types of things, which also, and in the end, really help the people that we serve as well. So let's see.
Can you touch on the salary review?
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Another big thing that was starting to happen when I started here was just reviewing all of the salaries at Chum. We partnered with an agency in town who does that kind of work, and just kind of looking at each job, looking at what Chum was paying for that position, and maybe what industry standard is for our area, and just making sure that we're being very equitable with salaries, which helps too with hiring as well. So yeah.
And let's start using that.
Could you save your questions till the end? Is that your
I'm
question?
fine to ask questions.
I came in late, I was at choir practice, but my name's Therese. Thank you so much, you guys, for putting this on. And I just want to know, I have a friend who's 38, college degree, needs a job. She just recently moved here from Oregon. Do you have health care? Yeah, you're talking about your salaries. Do your staff have health benefits?
That's a really good question. Yep, we do have health benefits for our staff. It's kind of scaled. So, for staff that work 20 hours a week, they may qualify for certain benefits, like we have an employee assistance program, for example, and things like that. And then the more hours staff work, the more benefits they qualify for. I believe it's 35 hours a week when someone qualifies for health insurance. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's it, yeah. We can open it up to questions too, yeah.
Carl. They have
I'm Carl, and I wanted to comment about how I think this is so beneficial for our church community, because it gives us a networking with Christian communities, faith communities, whatever you want, fellowships, etc., whatever you want to call it, churches, and so on. They all want their own name. I remember being sort of a guest at some lecture or something was over at Our Savior's way back in the 80s. And I remember remember one of their ministers and somebody else, a woman, talking in terms about, Matthew 12, clothe the naked and feed the hungry and provide shelter. And even if some of us are not Christians here, we need to stay connected with all and network with all the faith communities. It gives us a broader vision of the community. It's just so beneficial for our church. And that aspect is really important to me.
Thank
Yeah, thank you, and I completely agree. That's one of the things that I think makes Chum unique, and one of the things that I really love about Chum is that it's a people of faith working together to provide those basic necessities and foster stability, and then organizing for a compassionate and just society.
There are 44 member congregations of Chum today. The delegate assembly is on March 12th. Anyone can go, anyone can vote. Last year at the assembly, we had 2 new congregations that joined. I can only remember one. 12 Holy Apostles became members of Chum. That's really exciting to me. From the first 10, 50 years ago, now 44 congregations. And the director of congregational outreach meets regularly with congregations all over the area in order to talk about the benefits of making a commitment to be a member congregation. Other questions?
We have one online here. Let me read this out loud to everyone. Why isn't the food shelf open evenings or on the weekend for people who work jobs during the day? Doesn't Chum get food from the North Lakes Food Bank? Thank you, David.
I think the question is, why isn't it open in the evenings? I think that's largely a matter of volunteer time and staff not working or being able to or wanting to work in the evenings. One thing I learned from the director is the model for a food shelf is that it's like a grocery store, and you walk through and select what you want. COVID changed that, but also now is a problem of space. There isn't enough space to stock the amount of food that is needed to serve the number of people that Chum serves. What was the other question?
Northern Lakes Food Bank.
Oh, I think he buys mostly from Second Harvest. And I'm not sure the relationship between those two. I can't really answer that.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to mention that Stephanie Vega had arranged Laundry Love with Chum. So we are doing that every second Tuesday from 3 to 6. We're at Spin City, and it offers a chance for the homeless to come in and do their laundry. And our organization is supposed to be paying for the laundry services, which Stephanie has been paying out of her own pocket. So I don't know if that can be fixed or arranged with someone at our church to make sure that Stephanie doesn't have to use her own money for this. But
Thank you. We have to have a fundraiser. I think the cost is about $300 each time Laundry Love takes place. And the reason Spin City, or one of the reasons that is a location, is because their machines still take quarters. And other congregations, I think Lakeside Presbyterian had a drive that was only quarters. You can only bring quarters. So I don't have a suggestion there, but thank you, Doug, for bringing that up. She is totally responsible for having brought that opportunity to us.
Could I share a little? I just wanted to share just gratitude for taking that on, for participating in Laundry Love. Laundry Love has just been super impactful for our community. Originally, we were gearing it towards people experiencing homelessness, and those individuals can still use and do use Laundry Love, but it's also been a huge game changer for families, excuse me, who are really on a tight budget. Pat Benson was telling me a story of one mom who came there to do her laundry for her teenagers, and one of her teens just was kind of embarrassed to go to school, had been skipping school a little bit, and now, since Laundry Love, has been going to school more. So it's really hitting a target area of our population, maybe again, that we weren't capturing before or serving before, and so it's just been really impactful. And I just wanted to add too about our food shelf. Scott Van Dale was telling me that historically food shelves would be open, not necessarily ours, but maybe just one day a week. We've tried to work hard to provide accessibility with that Chum to Go program. We go out to where there's food deserts, out like Gary, New Duluth. We go to apartment buildings, maybe where people are homebound, don't have transportation to get their food. And so we're really trying to pivot and be meeting the needs of those individuals in our community as well.
Here's a tidbit, sort of a casual conversation. The Chum to Go increases in its number of people that serve that ask for that regularly. Scott said one day, you know, COVID, with the proliferation of food delivery services, that whole model has been in every part of the society. And Amber told me the other day, as a family, that you have your food delivered in some cases, and many of my friends do. So that whole model might change. Maybe there won't be in the future a need for grocery store like food shelves. Maybe we're gonna deliver all of it. So, changes every month.
If you think about trying to haul a lot of food, if you don't have transportation, even on the bus, it can get difficult. People have reported that. So especially when you have those big heavy boxes and maybe you're not physically able to do that. So it's just been a really good addition to what we're providing together at Chum.
We have time for at least one more. Anyone sitting on a question up there? Let's see on the line. Looks like we're caught
I
up.
don't see anyone yet.
We can also end early. That's entirely permissible. Well, at this point, I know both Marty and Amber would be happy to stick around here up front if you have any other thoughts. But before anything else, just please join me in giving a huge round of applause for our forum. Thank you both so much for your critical leadership and engagement looking out for our whole community in this area of food scarcity and taking care of those in need. At this point, again, our woven basket for March is Chum, so please give and give generously so we can make sure to be part of those 44 congregations doing each of their part.